Hi, everybody. I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch mentor. Welcome back to the Smart Performance Podcast, where S stands for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T for building that thriving community, and P for performance. Today, we're going to be talking about the P for performance. At the end of the day, you can do all the things you want, but if you don't perform, you're unlikely going to be promoted or set up for a transition. So today I've met Dickerson with me. We're going to dive into that topic in just a couple of minutes. Always remember, go to the Apple Store and download the Dutch Mentor mobile app. It will give you the traction you need to become a high performer wherever you are. Matt, thank you very much for being here today. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. I'm Matt Dickerson. I'm the owner-founder of Coaching for Clarity. We're a full-service professional development services company, and we've been at it for about 6 years now. And before that, spent 20 plus years in corporate, mostly in sales roles in sales organizations. I was a longtime middle manager or frontline manager for a pharmaceutical company, which got me into the style of coaching that I do, and I was grateful to be certified through their program. And now it's transitioned to a full-time ownership role of a coaching company, which I can't be more grateful for.
Excellent. It's really, listen, we don't have enough coaches in the world, in my opinion. And people say, what do you mean with that? I say, well, listen, all of us want to go to the Olympics in our respective disciplines, right? Well, all those
Absolutely.
coaches who went to Italy who are Olympians, none of them got there without a good coach or a mentor. And it's not your boss. And that is something that
Hmm.
needs people to remember, that the best action steps that you can take for themselves is to find a good coach or mentor. So the topic today is about performance. Because at the end of the day, that is one of the key indicators or the key things that leaders will look at for performance. Of course, decision making and performance. So tell us a little bit from your perspective. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think from a people leadership perspective, performance is about maximizing your team performance through the way you show up as a leader. Oftentimes, that can be measured by very tangible or quantitative things, which we may get into in our conversation. In my world, though, too, a lot of the results or outcomes that you can expect from strong leadership on the performance front are qualitative. They're feedback given by the people that are being coached or led. It's trends amongst feedback that you get from your peers. Perhaps your direct manager or your director would give feedback that would be, recognition of performance in that role. And so I think for me, it's important to know that I believe performance in a leadership role is all about how you invest in your people. And so we will probably dig into that a bit more if I could guess.
Yeah, so of course, I mean that's the area that we all collectively see the biggest weakness, of course. So let's take a quantitative and a qualitative approach to this. Let's start with qualitative. When we start measuring performance, right? And you coming up in the sales industry, everything is measured there, and if you're not
Hmm.
up, you're going to be measuring out, so to speak, right? So why is measurement so important when it comes down to performance of self, right? It is not not the things you do with people, but really the things that you do.
Hmm. Yeah. So, in the sales world in particular, but I know other industries have this term, key performance indicators or KPIs. They're measurable behaviors that we believe result in the outcomes that we desire, right? And a lot of times, as a leader, time spent with your individual people on your team and within the context of the team is a measurable thing that we can hold ourselves accountable to. Weekly or biweekly one-on-ones is a great example of this, right? You either spend that time, that 30 minutes or 60 minutes with that person, or you don't. You either do it on a certain cadence or you don't. And so that becomes very measurable because oftentimes, and I would agree with this statement, as people leaders, time spent with individual members of our team is a critical key to success. It's a key to outcomes and performance that we're looking for. And so I think you asked why it's important. It's important because we can measure them. We can make them SMART goals, so to speak. We can measure them and monitor them and hold ourselves accountable to them in a really tangible way. And so if we do believe it's tied to a positive outcome, then we can hold ourselves accountable to doing those things day in, day out, week in, week out, that lead to the results that we're looking for.
Yeah, so for my industry, right, and I'm working mostly in healthcare, we talk about quality and safety and
Mm,
growth, cost containment, transformation, and continuous improvement. It is really the leader's responsibility to help to set that North Star and bring clarity to that. But it's the individual on the front line needs to understand that and interpret that and then be able to communicate that back out to their team members so everybody can perform against that. So obviously there are some inherent difficulties around this. So what are some of the things that you see with your clients that people struggle with in order to really understand what measurement means to them and how they can relay that to the front line become effective and start performing?
hmm Well, one thing that classically gets in the way is we're stretched for time, right? And so capacity is always a concern, particularly if you're in a demanding industry or working for a demanding organization. And so helping people wrestle with how to carve out time to give even some initial thought to what they should be measuring. What should they be doing behaviorally? What should they be measuring? I think oftentimes the leaders that I work with get so wrapped up in just completing the next task or working on the next thing or racing to the next meeting that they don't allow themselves time to pause, collect their thoughts, and really decide what the best next steps are going to be. And that includes some of these, day to day or week to week behaviors. So time is always an ever present concern. I think also people misunderstand the value of consistent behaviors. And so oftentimes, I've worked with many leaders that have said things like, "I don't spend time with individuals on my team because they're rock stars. They don't need that attention, or they don't need that time. They're doing great. I don't need to correct them on anything." And in moments like that, they underestimate how much that individual probably wants that one-on-one time and how valuable they would perceive it. While the leader just thinks they're complimenting that person, right? Or they'll say, "I don't have time to dedicate to meeting with my people because I have these other priorities. I have these other competing things that I need to do." So I think so one is time. The other that I'm talking about here is more about prioritization, right? How urgent and important is it to hold myself accountable to certain behaviors that I think is going to lead to team performance? I think a lot of leaders wrestle with that. And to be frank, some never get to the point where they prioritize those types of activities for whatever reason.
Yeah, so 100% agree. And that I always remind people, what is one thing you never get back? That is time, right? So
Mhm.
therefore, time management becomes critically important. So on this topic of that, then give us some actionable steps a leader can take to get control over those two items you just mentioned.
hmm Well, first they have to believe that it's important, right? So there's a mental shift that likely needs to happen with many leaders. There's all kinds of books about time management and how to prioritize things correctly and that sort of thing. I have found, and it took me way too long to figure this out for myself. But time blocking, proactive time blocking, can be a powerful tool to maximizing the time spent. Because you're right, you never get back time. And so what I mean by time blocking is first taking some time to analyze the natural rhythms of yourself, right? I'm particularly energized to do this type of task in the morning. I can't do this type of task in the afternoon because of X, Y, and Z. It's easier for me to carve out creative time or time spent with other people during these days or during this time of the day. So a self-evaluation can be really helpful to begin to time block, and then taking those actions to block things for maximum performance. Right. I'll give you a quick example on my front as a business owner. It's really important for me to enter the week in a very organized and purposeful way. And so I always block 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Monday mornings, and I spend that time strategizing how I'm going to attack the week. Right? What am I going to do? How am I going to plan? What do I need to adjust? Who do I need to contact? What contingencies do I need to create for myself? That 7 to 10 a.m. becomes a critical time for making sure that the rest of the hours spent in that week are successful. And so during that time, I close all my browsers. I turn my phone over. That is just time that I have dedicated to doing that thing. So I don't accept appointments during that time. I don't accept phone calls. And believe me, I'm not 100% on it. But when I am, I find that I am able to achieve a level of success that week that I wouldn't otherwise be capable of. And so that's one example. Time blocking can be very, very helpful for a number of different things. Being stretched for time, prioritization, managing the right things or prioritizing the right things. Of course, time blocking can be really helpful.
I would add two things to the time block because I use a similar methodology and it is well published. Time blocking needs to be, you need to also understand that even if you prioritize, you need to make sure that not everything is weighted equally, right? So, what is that one
Mm,
thing? If you do
hmm
this, make everything easier. Second thing that people need to take into account is when do I do my best thinking? And that is very dependent. Some people do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, other people do it at 5 o'clock at night, or somewhere in between. Whenever you do your best thinking is when you need to set a time aside where you do strategy, where you need to do
hmm
things that are important for you to be able to continue to advance into whatever it is. But yeah, time blocking is certainly in prioritization. I always tell people, listen, how many people have a to-do list? And everybody says, I do. I said, well, take that thing, rip it up, throw it out. It's the biggest disfavor you ever do to yourself. Now, rewrite that in order prioritization and focus
Yes.
on the two things, not on the 10 things. And always until you'll start seeing a transformation that takes place. So the second part, more on the quantitative part of measurement of leadership, is not measured by numbers, but it is about what it is that you do, the behaviors we talked about. One thing I remind people often is that your boss is going to keep you in mind for promotion, not only on the numbers that you improve, but it's on the questions that you ask or the thing and how you handle difficult situations. Can I trust you to make good decisions when I'm not there? So, from your perspective, talk a little bit about the behaviors, about the quantitative measurement of performance.
Yeah, I talk a bit about this in my book as well. I know that not all leaders agree with me on this point, and also I'm very emphatic about it. I believe that good leadership is measured by the time that you spend making the people on your team the center of your universe. Right. And so, how that shows up behaviorally in a number of different ways is we talked about kind of the quantitative, the time spent and measurable things. The qualitative in that is how often do my people that report to me pop into my brain as I'm making decisions about my business, about my work, about my day to day. I used to joke when I was a manager. I would oftentimes joke because it wasn't really a joke, that I probably thought about the people on my team's development, professional development, more than they did for their own. I would wake up with ideas about like what I could expose them to, or what training we could get them involved with, or who would I need in my organization to introduce them to in order to advance their career or their upskilling in the way that they thought was appropriate, right? Making decisions for your team, managing top down, right? Managing the message to your team, keeping them top of mind or prioritized in every decision that you make, I think is a key habit that good leaders really keep in mind. It came up a lot for me professionally when I was trying to maximize their development. So it's not by accident that I bring that up a moment ago. If I was prioritizing their development in my thought process for basically everything I did on the job, The outcome of that was that they felt valued and seen and heard, and they felt like their career was moving at a trajectory that they approved of. And so everything else from a performance perspective for their job expectations, they became more dedicated to, they became more engaged in, they were more willing to go through the dirt and grime of the role, whatever that was, because they had the backdrop of, man, my manager really cares about my advancement, about my development. Um, and that was critical to my personal success as a leader, because then, as you rightly point out, my leader knew that he or she could trust me with the management of my team because they were seeing the outcomes that they were seeing, and so they were more willing to delegate, kind of unique opportunities and involve me in my own like development journey in ways that they might not have trusted me with if they thought that it would take me away from good leadership of my team, right? And so I think it's all tied in together.
Yeah. So the key is dedicating time to not only think about it, but to actually do it as well. So an interesting study came out in 2021 that 95% of executive leaders know and understand the value of development of their people. It's like,
Mm.
hurrah, but that is great. Finally
Uh-huh.
embrace. Well, the follow-up measurement, only 5% of those people did meaningfully follow up and take action. And
Wow.
often in the boardroom, it is discussed on how important it is to do reward, recognition, appreciate, recognize, and develop before money, right? Those are the key drivers to people's, performance elements. The thing is that when it came down to budget time or something happened, often was the first to be cut. And that is
Mm-hmm.
something shameful. I think that what you say is 100% true. The bosses also need to recognize if I'm too busy to do it, I should ask for help and retain a coach mentor to be able to fill
Mm-hmm.
that position for my team. Because if I cannot do it, somebody should be doing it. And retaining and re-recruiting people, especially of high performance, is critically important to the long-term success of any company, right? There's nothing worse than having real talent walking out because you did give them what they want, like challenge them, develop them, grow them. Where can we find you, Matt?
Yeah, mattdickersonvalued.com. If you type in Matt Dickerson Valued on LinkedIn, you'll find me easily that way. And then, of course, my business website is coachingforclarityllc.com. You could also pick up my book. It's called Valued. There'll be another one in the series coming out this spring. And that's a good way to connect with some of this, my philosophy on people leadership and people development as well.
Excellent, very good. And some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think if you're hearing this and you find what I said a moment ago in any way challenging, right? Yeah, but performance is really about getting the job done or the outcomes that the job description requires. It's really about putting the product out there or client relation or whatever else you might prioritize. If those thoughts challenge you in any way, that your focus should always be people centric, I would invite you to reflect on that some, right? And even reach out to me. I'd love to engage in conversation about it. Not to necessarily convince you, but to give you more perspective on why I think that way. Would love for you to spend some time with the thought.
Excellent. So, to the audience, remember that this conversation will be forgotten within an hour, two, or three, unless you take meaningful action. So, as you listen to this, do something with the information. It is the actions that lead to results, not just thinking about it. Again, you can go to the App Store, the Dutch Mentor, download the mobile app, get started in that. You can always follow up a conversation. Find yourself a good coach or mentor, just like Matt or myself, to help you get across that valley of despair and put you on that path of performance. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matt, for being here again. And we'll see you again in the future. Take care.
Thank you.